Hello out there in YouTube land. Author Mark Allen Gunnels here again. I am continuing my little series where I read the poetry that I wrote in my teenage years, high school and college, just to give a glimpse of the journey of a writer. Today I'm actually going to focus on some of the work I was doing in college. I really started writing when I was about 12. But high school is when I started to get serious about it and really started to think of myself as a writer and to tell people I wanted to be a writer. But really, it wasn't until college that I started writing stuff that I was very proud of. Most of that still was very rough and unpublishable, although there are some short stories from that period of my life that I did eventually include in some of my collections. But I was still doing a lot of poetry in college. And particularly, I started writing about my sexual orientation, about my coming to terms with the fact that I was gay. This was the 90s at this point, so it's almost like it was a different world back then. So much has changed since then. But I was dealing with it the way I deal with everything, by putting it down on paper. So I'm going to share 4 poems with you that I wrote. The first one is called Gregory Simmons Fell in Love. And this is probably the first thing I can remember that I ever wrote that specifically dealt with being gay and being a homosexual. But you'll notice when I read it, it's not in the first person. It's like I'm telling a story about someone else because I was feeling my way into the subject. But here we go. Gregory Simmons fell in love. Gregory Simmons fell in love, a love so pure and sweet, a love to outlast the ages, to make his life complete. Gregory Simmons fell in love, it was love at very first sight, because it only took an instant to know this love was right. Gregory Simmons fell in love, but he can never tell a soul. He must keep his love a secret and never let anyone know. Gregory Simmons fell in love, but no one would understand. Gregory's secret is simply this: he fell in love with another man. Gregory Simmons fell in love, and he's happier than he's ever been. But he cannot express this joy, because some would call his love a sin. Gregory Simmons fell in love, and to him I tip my hat. In a world full of hate, he found someone to love. What could be wrong with that? It's a kind of a simplistic poem, but it was really dealing with this feeling and this fear I had back then that I could never be out. People who know me now think the idea of me being in the closet is kind of insane, but there was a time I was and thought I could never really be out. And if I ever did find someone to love, it would have to be a secret. And so I was dealing with that there. And in the next poem, which is called Someday My Prince Will Come, I was dealing with a little bit of that and a little bit of the fear that I wasn't ever going to find someone to love. That was a big fear in my youth, my teenage and early 20s, that I just was never going to have that. Which is interesting looking back because, now I have this wonderful husband and I'm just so in love with him and he loves me, but, this was a snapshot of how I was feeling at the time. Someday my prince will come. I sit alone, locked in my tower, though it's really more of a closet. I wonder when my prince will come and what will become of me if he doesn't. I gaze out at the empty horizon, yearning to see him charging across the land, and all the walls that separate us will crumble when he takes my hand. But perhaps I'm dreaming of fool's dreams when I wish for my Prince Charming, for among the people of this land, such a notion is most alarming. But I cannot be a prisoner forever, deprived of love and hope and laughter. Surely someday my prince will come, and we'll live happily ever after. Again, kind of a simplistic poem, but just even reading it now, I remember how much longing I felt at that period when I wrote that. how much I longed for the freedom to be myself and someone to love me for myself and someone I could openly love. So I still find that there is power there. And this next poem, The Cards I Was Dealt, I was still dealing with my sexuality and facing it, accepting it myself, and this is sort of my plea for others to accept me. The Cards I Was Dealt. I'm torn between who I am and what society says I should be. I'm caught in the midst of what I know and that which remains a mystery. I know in my heart there's nothing wrong with this that I am feeling, but I am bombarded with negative images that send my mind reeling. I don't understand how those who preach love can be so eager to hate. And what is the reason behind their hostility? What makes their fear so great? I'm not trying to hurt anybody. I'm just trying to be myself. This isn't a matter of choices I've made. I'm just playing the cards I was dealt. I'm not trying to influence anyone or get them to see things my way. I just want the freedom to live my life with dignity instead of shame. I'm tired of hiding and pretending, of playing a role that's not me. I'm sick of being locked in this closet. I'm longing to one day be free. And when that day finally arrives, as I pray that soon it will, I'll no longer be afraid to express how I feel. And this is a world that people want to go back to. They want young queer people to be ashamed, to hide, and all that does is lead to misery and suffering. And, I am very happy that I found my way out of it. I had an outlet like my poetry. And, we have to keep fighting for a world where young people can be themselves. Now, this last poem I'm going to read doesn't specifically deal with my sexuality, my sexual orientation, but it deals with how I felt growing up in what I considered a stifling environment in a very small southern town where difference was definitely looked at with suspicion. And I call it Ode to Life in a Small Southern Town. Sometimes I want to run away. I fear I'll die if I should stay. I feel suppressed, claustrophobic. I dream of a world that is utopic. But as I look at the life I lead, reality crushes my wildest dreams, and all that's left is a handful of dust that seeps into my skin and turns to rust. Is it too much for me to ask to be freed from the burdens of my past? Can't I make a brand new start? Can't I salvage this disillusioned heart? Or am I doomed to never escape? Will I ever find my way out of this place? I long for somewhere I can call home, somewhere I won't have to be alone. Surely there are others out there like me, others who are different and scared and lonely. The problem is that I'll have to find them, and if I see them, how will I recognize them? Everything seems so complicated. I fear my hunger will never be sated. But only if I could run away, maybe, just maybe, I'd be okay. Maybe I'd find shelter in loving arms. Maybe I'd find a haven that's safe and warm. But I fear I'll never know unless I find the strength to grow. And I definitely felt that way. I felt trapped sometimes in my life in that town. And I didn't run away very far. I'm like an hour away from my hometown, but I am in a much more progressive area, surrounded by people who accept me for who I am. Something I never felt in my hometown. So that gives you a glimpse into what I was feeling and going through in my college years. And I appreciate you dropping by and listening to me. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Bye-bye.